Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sports Talk with Chavez, and today we have something special for you guys. I have here with me one of the better podcasters, in my opinion, for us Buffalo Bills fans. Love your show, man. Please welcome Dan Mitchell from Don Mafia.
Yo, my boy. Thank you so much for having me on, man. I'm super excited to sort of dive into the topics today. I mean, this is definitely a sensitive topic. We all know how much of a fanboy I am of Josh Allen. So we'll definitely dive into it, but super happy to be here, man.
I appreciate it again, man. Love your stuff. Been following you for a little while now. So today, Dan and I are going to discuss how we think Josh Allen stacks up compared to some of his counterparts in the NFL. I'll ask Dan here to get into why either of us thinks he'll be better or worse than these other guys. As always, any and all input is welcome. Just leave that in the comment box below. Let us know your thoughts as well. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. And you can also go subscribe to Dan here on his channel at Dan Mitchell. I'll have his info in the description as well as my own. So let's get to it here, Dan. Start off with a division and draft classmate in Sam Darnold. I know we pronounce his name differently, you and I. That's perfectly fine. Everyone pronounces things different.
Don't remind me. Side note, dude. I pronounce it Darnold for some reason. I don't know why, and I cannot tell you. There are at least 20 comments of being like, look at this asshole. He can't even this dude can't even pronounce his name right. I'm like, dude, get a fucking life.
Exactly, man.
Yeah. And so honestly, I'm just going to call him Darnold purely out of spite from now on.
Perfectly fine with me, dude. I have no quarrels with it. Anyways, do you think Josh will have a better season than Darnold, and why do you think he will or won't?
Yeah. So this is my mindset around the whole who's a better quarterback, Sam Darnold or Josh Allen. And it's definitely a debate that goes into it, right? When it comes down to an actual quarterback prospect, somebody that was ready to go into the NFL, it was Sam Darnold, right? That guy legitimately had all of the physical tools ready to go in and absolutely dominate the league. The problem was the fact that he hasn't. Now, whether or not that you have to account for the fact that he is unfortunate enough to be within the same organization as Adam Gase, who's an absolute cancer to any NFL team that he will ever coach for the rest of his damn career, you also need to look at the fact that the New York Jets historically have always ignored their offensive line. I do know that they made a couple of off-season moves. They got Becton out of the draft. They picked up a couple of free agents, but it's still an issue over there. And then once you also account for the fact is that the dude really doesn't have a lot of offensive weapons this year. Yes, he did get a couple of rookies out of the draft. Remind me who the Jets ended up picking up. That one, super speedy.
Denzel Mims.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I was actually hoping that the Bills would actually go after him.
So was I.
And so a rookie receiver, in my opinion, is not going to be his true number one, especially since he just missed off with Anderson going to the Panthers. Now, as far as Josh Allen is concerned, you look at his overall supporting cast, right? You're still getting John Brown and Cole Beasley back. Those two did tremendously for us in 2019. I almost want to say that they overperformed, or they outperformed their expectations, for me at least. And then obviously you end up getting Stephon Diggs. And then you add in the fact that we also have Devin Singletary and Zach Moss right there. As far as winning percentage without all of those new additions and the progressions that Josh has made, clearly from year one to year two, it's inevitable that he's going to take that next extra step. And now you add probably the best supporting cast throughout the entire AFC East. There's no doubt in my mind that Josh Allen is about to outperform Darnold this year.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that 100%. I've said in my episodes so far that I have done on each division that rookie wide receivers is one of the harder positions to transition. I believe that across the board, unless you have blazing speed, and even then, it's still not guaranteed. But I also agree with the Adam Gase point. I think he's a terrible head coach. I don't understand why the Jets, he was coaching against them in division when he was in Miami. They saw what he was, and they still wanted him to be their head coach. I don't like that either. and their O-line is not much improved. So
Not at all.
I agree with you 100% on that. All right, so the next one I wanted to bring up, not a lot of people talk about this when they mention him for some reason. And I'm talking about the fact that the only reason Kansas City was in the position to draft Patrick Mahomes in the first place was because we traded them that pick. It doesn't get talked about that much, in my opinion. I don't really hear anyone talking about it. Why do you think Mitch Trubisky gets talked about more than us trading them that pick? And who do you think will have a better season, Josh or Mahomes? And then the third question, who do you think will win the head-to-head matchup between these two in Week 6?
Sure. Well, it's definitely surprising because, definitely Bills fans, we talk about it all the time, but the national media just tends to forget about it. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that what Bills fans don't realize and what the media does realize is that I think that Patrick Mahomes would not be the same quarterback, say that he were to be drafted by the Buffalo Bills. Because, you look at that opening season, right? Because Pat Mahomes, he had that entire season to sort of sit behind Alex Smith and sort of learn and sort of make that progression right into the NFL. You look at the roster that we currently had at that point, say that Patrick Mahomes came to the Bills, he most likely would have been the starter Week 1 and Week 2. And then you had to marry in that atrocious offensive line we had during that year, a lack of a supporting cast, etc. Pat Mahomes wouldn't have been the exact same guy. I think that it helps that Pat Mahomes went to Kansas City. And I think the reason that he's had such a successful career so far was the team that he ended up getting drafted in. And that's what I think a lot of quarterbacks are like this year, right? So, this is sort of off topic, but I do believe that if Josh Rosen were to be in a similar situation like to Pat Mahomes, and his career would be an entire different story right now. It really depends on where you're put. And that's exactly why I think that the media really doesn't touch on it. Now, don't get me wrong, would have been interesting to have, right? And so definitely would have been interesting to have Pat Mahomes. But at the end of the day, I was completely fine with the Trey White pick, man. Best cornerback in the league. Definitely not going to sleep on that.
I'm absolutely happy with the fact that we traded it away also. I feel your sentiment. Don't think he would have done much in Buffalo with the horrible team we had around him, and he wouldn't have been able to learn from a guy like Alex.
Yeah. And so it very well could have made it an entire different scenario, and we would not have seen the exact same Pat Mahomes.
Right. It would have been, like you said, similar to what we saw with Josh Rosen when he went to a terrible team.
That poor bastard.
So who do you think will have we'll start with the head-to-head matchup. Who do you think's going to win that game this year between Mahomes and Josh?
So I've done a video, and I did I did a way too early record prediction, and I do have the Kansas City Chiefs coming out on top in that game, unfortunately. Don't get me wrong, I'm definitely not seeing it be a blowout. In fact, I do not see the Bills getting blown out one game this entire season. You cannot sleep on our defense when it comes down to it. But as far as just the synergy is concerned, the Kansas City Chiefs are basically getting their entire offense back this year. So I just have a feeling that the Bills are going to end up dropping that one, but have no worry. I still have the Bills going 11-5 and winning the division.
See, this is where we disagree finally. I believe Buffalo, because I personally don't think that Pat Mahomes has gone up against a defense that is as sound as Buffalo's is from the front line to the secondary, including the linebackers. I don't believe he's faced a complete defense that is as ferocious as ours. And our whole defense is coming back. We're plugging in 2 new guys probably, and we only lost Lorenzo Alexander really. I see, and our offense, same thing. Continuity. I believe that we'll be able to keep up with them. And I don't think that Kansas City's defense is anywhere near as good as ours. But
no way.
In my way too early predictions, I had us going 11-5 also.
Beautiful.
But
and so right out of curiosity, so who did you have us losing against?
I can't even remember. There was definitely one. I threw one in there that we should win, but we'll probably end up losing because we always have one of those.
And so you need to do that. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Like one of those games. And so
And-
one game that we should lose, but we just completely beat the shit out of them.
Exactly. Exactly. I can't remember. I have it written down somewhere who we lost to, but I can't remember right off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I want to say I had us losing one in New England for sure, even though I don't think they'll be as good of a team this year. Okay, so you think we'll lose that game. I think we'll end up winning. Do you think that Mahomes and Josh will be in a race for the MVP this season, possibly?
That's a very interesting question because when you look at Josh's progression through year 1 and year 2, like he basically improved in each and every single category, right? And I mean, like with all of the talks about how he's been spending a lot of time with his quarterback coach, he's been like doing a lot of extra work throughout like this really weird type of off season. While I see Mahomes having a season similar to Josh's itself, it's really a question mark on my end of can Josh make that extra step, especially when it comes to sort of that deep ball, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I hate when people put way too much like thought like right into his deep ball issues because Josh Allen was like, I believe he was like top 10 in the league for short to medium passes. And as long as he just does that, I could care less say that Josh doesn't throw for another 300-yard game. That's something that Patrick Mahomes is going to do each and every single day. As far as an MVP, as far as being in the MVP conversation, can certainly see Josh being in that discussion. But at the end of the day, the only thing I want to see is one more step of improvement and for him to win us football games. That's basically my mindset behind his entire development.
Absolutely. I agree with you there as well. I personally think that it will be a little easier for him to fix those deep ball issues. A lot of that comes from how big his arm is. And most guys, literally, if they throw it as hard as they can, it's not too far out of the receiver's reach.
Not
Josh, though, if he chucks it as far as he can, it's going out of the stadium. So he's got to try. He's just got to taper it back a little. And I think that'll come with another year of experience.
Yeah, for sure. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, like, I mean, like when it came down to it too, like Josh was pressured a shit ton in 2019. Like he was pressured a shit ton. And granted, we didn't make some new additions right to our offensive line, at least not as many as I would have liked to see during this offseason. But so many people, when you think about this Stephon Diggs addition, what a lot of people don't understand is when you have a receiver like that, defensive lines are most likely not going to be pressuring you as often because they know that they have a receiver that can create space with a snap of a damn finger, and he'd be able to just dump it off to him or be able to dump it off to Cole Beasley, who is just as good, maybe a little less than Stephon Diggs at route running by itself. So once you account for the fact that I do not see Josh being pressured nearly as often as he was in 2019, that might be able to fix the issue as well.
And I think their offensive line being together another year too definitely helps that.
So the chemistry,
pressures, for sure. And it's kind of a pick your poison offense this year. It will be, to be honest, because we got so many different weapons now.
And so you know that I'm like a huge advocate for running the damn ball, dude.
Oh, I know. Hey, man.
So I'm still hoping that we run the ball 60% of the time.
Oh, definitely. especially with the two backs we have.
With Singletary and Moss. Come on.
Exactly. I see no reason to change that or anything. I played football my whole life. I play quarterback even, and I still love running the ball. So far we've kept it to younger guys in comparison to Josh anyways. I really think he's going to improve even more this year, like I said. At least I really hope so. But next I want to ask about an established veteran that may or may not be with his current team next season after 2020. But in my opinion is a good starting quarterback to have on your team, meaning Derek Carr. A lot of people seem to think he's on his way out in Las Vegas because him and Gruden do seem to not have that chemistry. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think Carr will have a good season with what he has out there in Las Vegas? And how do you think that compares to Josh?
And so to be honest with you, like, I mean, like when it comes to Derek Carr, like he's like a very one-dimensional quarterback, right? And I think maybe it has to do with the fact that Gruden's now the coach, or like he's sort of like calling the shots when it comes to the offense, and he just doesn't mesh as well with that team going into it. The reason that Carr was so effective that 1 year, about 2 years ago, was the fact that, you know, like, I mean, like he really didn't have a lot of starting experience within the league at that point, and he was able to really take advantage of some of those defenses that weren't necessarily familiar with his play. And then you rewind to last year where he was not nearly as effective by itself. Once you compare him to Josh is really not that predictable, right? So like, I mean, like he can burn you in the corners. Like, I mean, like he can burn you on a slant route, like 15 to 20 yards up the field, or he can scramble and run for 40 yards. He's unpredictable. And that's the reason why I would choose Josh Allen over a quarterback like Derek Carr any day of the week. I am a huge believer that I think that Marcus Mariota is going to be the starter by week 5. But that's just my theory.
Hey, I really like Derek Carr myself. I think he's underappreciated. He did have a very rocky last quarter of the season last year. But if you look at the first 3 quarters of the season before they went on that losing streak, I thought his numbers were pretty solid. That's just my opinion, though. I mean, he still threw for 4,500 yards last year. Decent touchdown interception ratio. I mean, that's still a quality starter in this league, and not top tier talent by any means, but I personally would choose Josh over him as well, because
for sure.
Just the competitor in Josh, I love seeing that, and especially in the fourth quarter when he has to bring us back. I don't think I'd rather have any other quarterback.
And so, yeah, for sure. Like back in 2019, he had 4 or 5 game-winning drives, right?
I'll say 5.
Yep. Okay, so 5 game-winning drives, never had an interception in the red zone. I mean, yeah, dude. Like, I mean, like, you can't deny that clutchness, right? And so I did wish that, you know, he would be a little bit more clutch in that last quarter of the wild card game, but that's a different story. Right?
He was trying to do a little bit too much there.
Yeah,
he was.
But hey, it's funny because people always say that. Say that he were to pull off that lateral, and that shit would have been on replay.
And then we're all praising him. We're all praising him if that play works out instead.
Exactly, man.
No, you're absolutely right. And Josh also had top 5 quarterback rating in the fourth quarter last year. So I love where this team's going. I think he's definitely taking us the right way. So I've been trying to keep it mostly comparable, not including guys like Ben Roethlisberger, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, older veterans. That's not really fair to compare, in my opinion, usually. But I am curious to see your thoughts on Tom Brady and how he's going to do this year. Yeah. I'm glad he went to the NFC if he was going to leave. But like Coach McDermott and Brandon Beane had said, it would have been nice to beat the Patriots with him there. And I think they were on their way to do that this year. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on wanting to beat the Patriots like that at full strength with Brady? And do you think Josh will be able to surpass Brady as the better quarterback of those two this coming season?
So for this season, or for Josh to surpass him throughout his entire career? Like
definitely not career-wise.
Okay, I was about to say that.
Just for this season.
This is going to be tough, and I might even lose a couple subscribers for saying this. But like with Tom Brady, like, I mean, he's the best to ever do it, right?
Absolutely.
So I mean, like, honestly, dude, like,
I hate saying that.
Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I would have loved to beat the Pats with Brady on the team, but at the end of the day, dude, like, you look at 2019, and I don't care what anybody says. Tom Brady is not the same quarterback that he was back in the day. Like, he is showing many signs of regression. As Josh Allen put it, he's never going to be captain check down. That's exactly what Tom Brady is right now. He's captain check down, right? And I mean, it's when you look at the Patriots team from 2019, the reason that we dropped both of those games was not because of Tom Brady. Like, we did a fantastic job of containing him. Like, week 4, he barely did anything. And our last matchup really didn't do a lot. It was all their defense, man. It was all their defense. And that's why I'm also thinking that the Pats aren't going to be as bad as everyone thinks that they're going to be, because they still have that defense going in, but I digress. As far as Tom Brady is concerned, He has an interesting situation in Tampa Bay. He doesn't have the best offensive line. I mean, granted, they did make a couple of additions in the offseason that might improve it a little bit, but he's like leaving a stone wall that was New England, and he's going to Tampa Bay. Yes, and so like, I mean, that he has like a bunch of like really shiny new toys and weapons, obviously. But I mean, I still foresee him being that cap and check down guy, and I really think that we're going to see what Tom Brady looks like when he doesn't have an amazing offensive line behind him. So I see Josh Allen having a better season this year just because Tom Brady is going to be going up against the NFC South. I mean, like, so the dude, he's got to play Drew Brees twice. He has to play the Carolina Panthers, who really, in my opinion, aren't going to be as bad as everybody thinks. And the Falcons, who I have opinion, are also going to be coming out. As far as just the opponents, as far as the divisional rivals are concerned, I think Josh has an upper hand as far as his strength of schedule, as far as the division is concerned. As far as Josh's progression and as far as the fact that I believe that Tom Brady is going to be in for a rude awakening of what an offensive line issue is, so I'm going to have to pick Josh Allen having a better season this year.
Okay. I'll take the Josh having a better season this year. I don't think that Tom is going to be as bad as you think he's going to be this year.
Okay.
I personally, because I watched a lot of his tape like over the last few months from last year, and there was a lot of drop passes. I mean, Julian Edelman led the league in drop passes. The other receivers weren't getting separation.
Yeah,
I think that those things will definitely improve for him in Tampa. You're right, the offensive line, a little different, but I don't think their line is going to be as bad as some people think it will be. It's not going to be 2019 Cleveland Browns bad.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
it's not going to be that bad.
For sure. And so don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, and so I still see the Buccaneers making the playoffs this year. Don't see them winning the division. And so I see him like sneaking in with a wild card, but they'll still make the playoffs. But I just don't think that a lot of it is going to have to do with Brady coming in and saving the entire organization.
I mean, their quarterback last year did have like 40 turnovers.
Famous Jameis, his 30 for 30 season, 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. Oh man, holy hell.
But back to your point about division matchups, I think that the Patriots defense is going to take a noticeable step down this year. Maybe not like bottom half of the league or anything, but I don't believe that will be a top 5 unit this year. The best defense is a good offense, right?
For sure.
So that's just my opinion. I think the Patriots will have a decent year, not going to make the playoffs. But I do think the Bucs will, like you said, make the playoffs and not win the division. I have the Saints winning that division.
And so do you think that the Bills are going to be the only team from the AFC East to make the playoffs this year?
I do believe that the Bills will be the only one from the AFC East.
Interesting.
I personally had the Dolphins going 8-8.
Okay.
And that was the closest team to us.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely interesting too because I actually have 3 teams from the AFC North. And so making the playoffs this year.
Same here.
And so with the Browns winning the division.
Crazy take.
Okay. Hot ass take, dude. Hot ass take. The Browns winning that division this year. Crazy.
I can see it happening, especially with Stefanski as the head coach up there now. I think he'll get that ship straightened out.
Yep.
So I definitely can see that. Speaking of, actually, you didn't even know I was going to ask this next, but next up I want to talk about another guy from the same draft class. Last year did not have a good year by the standards he set as a rookie. Yes, Baker Mayfield from the Cleveland Browns.
Baker
had a down year last year, but I think
he did.
I think he might be able to turn it around with a better head coach this year. What do you think? Do you think they fixed their offensive line enough to make a big impact? They did beat us last year. I thought we should have won that game.
We should have won that game, and I was pissed that we lost it. But yeah,
you and me both. But man, I was watching it the whole time. But do you think Baker will have a better statistical season than Josh this year, or no?
And so I think it's going to be neck and neck just because, like you said, I really think that addition with Stefanski coming in, it's really going to turn that organization around. Now, granted, I mean, most Browns fans have probably been saying that for the past like 15 to 20 years. Oh, this is our year. We're going to turn it around.
We were
and
right
the
there
too.
with them.
Exactly. So, I mean, let me not go on ahead and, yeah. But, yeah, dude, like, I honestly think that the key issues with the Cleveland Browns had to do with Freddie Kitchens at the helm, honestly, dude, right? Like, hell, like, perfect example, like, right up against the Bills. Like, they had 8 tries, like, from the 3-yard line.
Or 3 and in, yeah.
From the 3-yard line just to get it in. And it all came down just, like, shitty play calls. Mm-hmm. I really think that Stefanski is going to be able to get the most out of Baker Mayfield. And I do know that they did make a couple of additions this offseason to their offensive line. And, I mean, so it's tough, honestly, right? Like, look at, like, the weapons that they have. Like, they have, like, Landry. They have OBJ. They just picked up Austin Hooper.
Team. That is a
and
stacked
so Austin
team.
Hooper. They still have Nick Chubb. They still have Kareem Hunt. Like, if Baker Mayfield cannot win the division with the squad that he has right now, then he's a bust. That's just facts.
I completely agree.
Yeah. So when it comes down to it, I do think that it is going to be neck and neck. I might see Baker have a little bit more passing yards, maybe some more passing touchdowns than Josh Allen is concerned. But as far as overall wins, which in my opinion is the most important stat, is wins, right?
Absolutely.
So as long as Josh Allen just goes on ahead and stacks up those W's and brings us into the playoffs, then gonna have Josh Allen have an overall better year from the win column and as far as overall success of how far a team goes.
I completely agree with that. I think that people underestimate the fact that, or how much his rushing ability affects a game. Not everyone underestimates it, but they don't really include it when they're talking about how bad of a quarterback he is. Mm-hmm. National media, I mean. They love ragging on him, but they don't account for how much his rushing really changes the game, changes the dynamic of how the defense tries to play us. And I'm so tired of hearing them dog on him. I can't wait for them all to be eating his ass this season.
Oh, me too, dude. Me too, bro. Me too.
I'm
like,
really
honestly,
excited.
dude, like, I mean, like, so many fans, dude, like, they're like, oh, like, Josh needs to stop running so much. I'm like, no, dude. That's what makes him good.
Exactly.
Like, that's like what makes him dynamic. And like, that's the reason why I think that he's going to be in the league for a long time, because he can do that.
Exactly.
Would like to see him not run as often.
I just don't want to see him take those big hits. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
Those
slide.
big hits and like no fumbles either. Yeah, exactly. Slide, dude. Slide. Like, don't be hurt on anybody. You know.
Exactly.
Like,
and the fumbles, man. The fumbles. That is one thing that I had on my projections for the Bills that he needs to improve on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Fumbles was a big issue.
For sure.
So honestly too, because I mean, as far as interceptions are concerned, as soon as when week 4 was over last year, I mean, Josh like really figured it out. And so I'm pretty sure that he threw like 2. I'm pretty sure that he threw like 2 after week 4.
There was
and, like,
2 interceptions the last like 10 or 12 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, hopefully that trend continues, and then the next thing he works on is just holding on to the football.
I see nothing but positives ahead for our team, man. I love the way that Brandon Beane has put everything together and the way that Coach McDermott handles his business.
Me too, man.
Thank you so much, Dan, for stopping by and giving us your thoughts on how these guys are going to compare this year. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, for sure. It was a blast.
All right. So there you have it, guys. If Josh can continue to show growth, and we believe he will, you may see him in the top 10 conversation for best quarterbacks next year. Thank you all again for stopping by. Can't tell you how much we appreciate it. If you have any thoughts on this, go ahead and comment below. If you like this video, give it a like, as any and all support is greatly appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on those notifications so you can watch all the content that we put out there. If you want to go above and beyond to help out either channel, Dan and I both are on Patreon, and you can check those links out and see what it's all about. Any and all contributions to those goes directly back into helping out the channels, such as better equipment, software, etc. Thanks again so much, guys, and have a great day. Peace and love.